Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we gather today not to mourn the death of Miitomo, but to celebrate its life. And also to celebrate its death. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We have got a good show for you tonight. We are going to be talking about the end of Miitomo and some PlayStation amiibo-y things, and then come back on Thursday where we are going to be ranking the Koopalings definitively and indisputably. It'll be a good ranking, Mark, don't you think?
I'm super excited.
I think it's going to be so good. We've ranked some important things before.
But never this important.
That's right. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Let's move on to our weather report.
It's beautiful outside.
It's beautiful. Some would even say too hot.
Yeah, I mean, it's like back to being summery.
It is. It is January summer. We got them hot Santa Ana winds coming in tonight. So hopefully we don't all burn down.
Yeah. Look forward to that.
Our guest weather today is Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Seems like they're rocking the 50s and kind of cloudy.
Yeah, gonna be a little bit of rain later this week.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, that sounds really nice.
A little bit of rain. Look, I had lunch outside today because it's nice and sunny. I tell you what, though, I was too hot.
It was warm.
Yeah.
It was warm.
I was sitting in the direct sunlight. I was like, I can't do it. I gotta find. I must seek shade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big ups to our listeners in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. The reason I picked Pigeon Forge, Tennessee is because that is the home of Dolly World, which is, of course, Dolly Parton's theme park complex.
Now, is that Dolly World or Dollywood?
Oh, Dollywood.
Yes.
Dollywood.
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you.
And
I made that mistake earlier.
Formerly Dollywood Land. Is that right?
Yes. When it was a real estate development.
Right.
The land part burned down. So now it's just Dollywood.
Now it's just, and then the whole place is known to colloquially as known to. What am I saying?
Look, I mean, language is constantly evolving. So as long as you're understood, it doesn't really matter what you're saying or how you say it.
Why are you thinking about Dollywood?
Well, because RuPaul's Drag Race is back.
Okay.
And there's
no explanation necessary.
RuPaul's Drag Race All-Star Season 3 is back. And there's a queen on it named Trixie Mattel, who also releases kind of like folksy bluegrass albums.
Yeah.
And during the talent competition, which there was one, she performed one of her songs and was wearing this very like Dolly Parton 1970s, get up. It was great.
Look, man, I love Dolly Parton.
She's wonderful.
She's great.
She's a national treasure. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, we never really need an excuse to celebrate Dolly Parton.
But here we are doing it anyway. Here's another thing that we're doing anyway. If you would like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces, all you need do is shoot me an email with your home address.
Or any, I guess, mailing address. It could be work or a P.O. box.
That's true. Or your home address. Get your parents' permission first if you're under 18. And email that to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. I send Sonic Forces to you. You enjoy it or don't enjoy it for as long as you want. And then you just drop it in the mail on back to me.
This costs you nothing.
It costs you nothing, except, of course, that you will have to endure some amount of Sonic Forces. If you choose for that amount to be 0, that's a choice that you can make.
You are within your rights.
But I think everyone who has borrowed it so far has at least enjoyed borrowing it, if not enjoyed playing it. Mark, are you ready to get into what we've been playing this week?
I am ready.
Let's do it. So, Mark, you picked up one of the new releases from this week on Switch.
Yeah, finally. We talk about games all the time, but I feel like in new releases. But I feel like we don't always buy something from it. But yeah, I picked up Celeste,
Yeah.
which is a 2D platformer. Um, and this is the one that in the Nintendo Direct Mini, they talked about the fact that there's like a assist mode that you can
Yes.
turn on that has like different variables that allow you to kind of like, because this is one of those like super challenging platforming games.
Yeah, one of those like ultra precise platformers.
Yeah, and I was kind of expecting, so I was expecting to engage the assist mode pretty early on.
Assist mode activated.
And I haven't made it super far. I'm like 3 levels in. But I have found that I haven't needed to use assist mode because I found that this game is like really well balanced where it is challenging. Like I've died like 200 times.
But it's
at the end
set
of every,
up for that, right?
Yeah. At the end of every level, it tells you like how many times you've died, and and but it's balanced really well in that there's like collectibles that you can find and get, and some of them are very challenging to try to like figure out how you're supposed to do it with the mechanics of the game. But to actually just like they're like little strawberries, and a lot of times I'm just like if I can't figure out how to get it, I'm just gonna move past it.
Yeah.
And you usually can do that fairly easily.
And I assume you can revisit levels whenever you want to.
Yeah,
Like, get those
totally.
berries. Yeah.
And it's not easy, even like without the getting all of the strawberries, but it's still challenging. Like it's not a breeze. It's great. I'm really enjoying the presentation. It has that kind of 16-bit style.
Pixelated. Yeah.
The music is really good. There's a little bit of a story in it that in the beginning I was kind of like, oh, this is dumb. But once you get just like a little bit into it, you realize that it's really well done.
Okay.
And I'm again just in like the early going, but it kind of deals with like depression and stuff like that.
So
it's really interesting.
What like is the setup of the story? Like what?
So you play as a girl who you can name. I can't remember what the default name is. I just went with that. It's like Meredith or something like that. And you are coming to climb Celeste Mountain.
Okay.
And so each level is just kind of like a different part of Celeste. The first one is like an abandoned city, and so and I guess I won't get like too spoilery, but yeah, that's pretty much it. You're just like climbing this mountain.
You set out to climb
and
a
you
mountain.
have like some amount of self-doubt, and you meet like some different people along the way and things like that.
I would doubt myself climbing a mountain. I feel like that would be most of what I would feel.
Yeah, and like you're doing it
and pain
to try to, basically just be like prove that you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was like $20. I'm really glad I picked it up. I'll definitely be playing like the rest of the way through it.
Yeah, and it seems like it's been really well received and well reviewed right now. So that's one that I'm also hoping to get into soon. I'm kind of still fresh off my Meat Boy experience, and the game seems similar to me.
Very similar. I would say this is more from the little bit that I've seen and played of Meat Boy. This hangs together a little better. In like Meat Boy really is just kind of like puzzle room to puzzle room.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, I guess again, my limited experience with it doesn't have a lot of atmosphere.
I mean, Meat Boy has some atmosphere, but no real like coherent sense of place. And it sounds like Celeste, being that it's named for its setting, at least has its and just like looking at it aesthetically, it seems like it's evoking a specific mood from the setting.
Yes, absolutely. And it uses that to kind of like drive you forward.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I've been playing Pokemon Crystal version on the 3DS. I have never played a Generation 2 Pokemon game, so this is a first for me.
And this is like the third version of...
Yes, it is the third prong of Gold and Silver, yeah. And I don't really know what compelled me to do this. I had like $20 in 3DS cash just sitting around, and I was like, hey, I can pick up this game and then something else later. So that's exactly what I did.
So how is it going back from Sun and Moon?
Uh, I mean, I don't even really think of it as it doesn't feel at all like the same game as Sun and Moon. But when Red, Yellow, and Blue were all released on the 3DS, maybe about a year ago at this point, I picked up Red because that's the version of the game that I had in the first place and like the first Pokemon game that I ever played. So it feels more like a beefed up version of that. Even just like the little improvements to the presentation, like the Pokemon all have like a small little animation when you start fighting them instead of being just like a static image. All that little stuff helps. And it's also, it's a Game Boy Color game originally, so it's presented in color instead of in just like Game Boy Black and White, which is always more engaging now. I mean, I know the Game Boy sold a lot of hardware and a lot of software, but man, it's amazing to me how much black and white gaming we were doing in like the 90s. So yeah, I mean it's a fun game. It's Pokemon.
Who's your starter?
My starter is he's a water crocodile thing, like a Totodile, I think is what it's called. I'm not super familiar with like the Gen 2 starters or like any of that.
What's the like
the fire one
the
is a
region
fire
like?
porcupine.
Oh, okay.
And we'll get to the region question in a second. And the grass type is like just a I don't even know what it is. It's some weird little crawly animal thing. And that's what my rival has. So the region is called Johto. And I'm not totally clear what it's about yet. But it does seem like a more alive place than the original Pokemon, where like I've encountered like ruins, and it feels like the Pokemon are more like a living part of this world and less like a weird computer program that everyone enslaves and makes fight for them. Um, but I'm still early going here. I'm through the first gym, and just kind of like having fun with a classic Pokemon game that I don't have. Like it's so close to being like Red and Blue, but just like isn't, right? So it's like playing Lost Levels for the first time in Super Mario Brothers, where you're like, I know how this works, but all the particulars are a little bit different. So I don't know. It's been cool and fun, and I'm enjoying it. And someday there will be a Pokemon game on Switch, and all these games will be compatible with Pokemon Bank, presumably, and I'll be able to upload my.
Yeah, you're just getting a head start.
I'm just getting a head start, but like that's actually fun and something that like I never really like appreciated or got excited about when we were playing Sun and Moon, that like we'll be able to take these Pokemon into whichever like big one we play next. And I like the fact that I've got now that, and then my Gen 1 and now like a Gen 2, like I'm gonna be able to pull a bunch of weird Pokemon into whichever version of this I play next. Hopefully, I not confirmed that Pokemon Switch is supported by Pokemon Bank, but it's got to be, right?
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, right. I mean, the game has to come out first,
Yes.
I guess. And then I've also been paying attention to Japanese Evo was this weekend. And so they have there was an ARMS tournament there, and Smash, and Street Fighter, and I mostly paid attention to the Street Fighter 5 tournament. But all fun high level play there, and super fun stuff to watch on Twitch, and then all the highlights on YouTube.
Is Evo an acronym?
I think it's short for evolution.
Oh, okay, great.
But I don't know why.
Yeah,
I don't know why evolution would be what the fighting game is. Tournament is called. All right, Mark. That's what we've been playing or watching this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
So January 31st, the Pokken Tournament DX Battle Pack Round 1 that was announced in the Nintendo Direct Mini
Yep.
is dropping. I guess I didn't think about it at the time, how this is DLC for a game that already had a bunch of DLC. Basically, Pokken Tournament must be doing great.
Yeah, it must be. Well, it's not just that it already had DLC. It had DLC in the arcades where no one could buy it.
Right.
Right?
But it also had DLC on the Wii U version, at least initially, I'm assuming, right?
But a lot of those characters, a lot of the DLC characters did not come to the Wii U.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so
This game persists. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's like it's
and who knows how or why? Other than I guess it's because it's called the Pokemon.
Yeah,
That's probably it.
I guess. And then February 1st, there's a bunch of indie games coming out on the Switch eShop. You have Her Majesty's Spiffing, Island Flight Simulator, Night in the Woods, which including the Weird Autumn and Solstice content. Is that bundled in, or is it like the Darkest Dungeon where it's like two different versions? And
No, it's all of the like extra content. The Weird Autumn is like a director's cut version of the game.
Oh, okay.
So it's all Night in the Woods is coming, full feature to Switch basically.
And then SteamWorld Dig, Skyforce Reloaded. The Neo Geo game of the week is Samurai Showdown 2,
which is that's a good one. Samurai Showdown 2 is sort of where Samurai Showdown really found its legs, and before like the series gets kind of crazy. But it also has like some of the worst translation in like Japanese game. Like the language in it is like off the hook. Errors in every sentence. It's amazing.
Also of note that this last week it was announced that the ACA Neo Geo games have sold over 1 million copies on Switch.
So good on the Arcade Archives guys.
Yeah,
for
seriously.
supporting
I think
this
it's like
thing.
Hamster Corporation or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of an insane number.
Yeah, I mean, that is out of how many games that they've released. How many Neo Geo games are on this thing?
Yeah, I mean that's true. Probably like
20?
20, because they've released at least one a week since the Switch came out, basically.
Yeah.
So probably closer to like 30 or 40.
How many Neo Geo games are there? How many different times can we buy King of Fighters, Mark?
Would they apparently over 1 million.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Frederick 2, Evil Strikes Back, and Shiftlings all coming out February 1st. And then on February 3rd, Saturday, weirdly, Super Mario 3D Land, The Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, and Ultimate NES Remix for the 3DS are all becoming Nintendo Selects for $19.99. I say weirdly because usually Nintendo releases things on Friday.
Yeah, but I mean, this is really
or
just
Sunday.
like a price drop and a repackaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saturday is super weird. What is that?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it.
I know we're probably mostly in the I left my 3DS behind mode right now, but are there any of those Nintendo Selects that you're interested in picking up, Mark?
Super Mario 3D Land.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's a good game.
Yeah, I am tempted by that. I also am kind of interested in Night in the Woods.
Yeah.
I only know a little bit about it, but from what I do know, it seems pretty interesting.
It's like an adventure game kind of, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Or like a narrative experience.
Uh-huh.
Where you're like animals and
I've heard it compared a little bit to like Oxenfree.
Okay.
Where it mostly, like the joy of the game comes from talking with different characters and like the relationships that you establish.
Right, and the relationship, between them.
Yeah.
You said relationships, and then I was like, oh, I thought of something. Relationships. All right, Mark, let's move out of the new releases here. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Shoot, I gotta find where this thing starts here. Sorry. Check it out. Today we are talking about printers.
Have you ever had a printer at home that you liked, that worked well, seamlessly, and that if somebody was like, I need a printer, you'd be like, I have one to recommend to you?
No, I feel like that's an unrecommendable thing, right? I bought a printer shortly after moving to LA because I was taking a writing class. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I was taking a sketch writing class, and I was like, I needed to print out sketches because this is long enough ago when like it wouldn't have made sense to like upload them to a Dropbox and everyone would just read them from their phone anyway.
Right, yeah.
So like I
Oh,
bought...
because we're a million years old. Sorry,
We're a million years old,
was,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this was 5 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
it's the difference that 5 years makes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I bought one then, and you know I used it for the 2 consecutive sketch writing classes that I took, and then I stopped printing stuff, and then like the ink dried out, and you know it became like a broken, busted up hunk of junk, and then I think we like recycled it at Staples or something.
Yeah, printers are one of those things that like you've occasionally need one in your life now, and when you do, it's so annoying.
Yeah.
Because none of them work well.
No.
I've never had a printer that I liked or that worked like consistently.
When you do need to print things now, what is your go-to solution?
Work,
just do it at work?
Yeah.
Do you ever do the thing where you're like you wait for like other people to go and then like you print the stuff that you need to print, or like is there anything to like being secretive about printing the things you're printing?
I mean, you just, in a communal work environment, you just don't want to leave things in the printer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just good etiquette.
That is just good etiquette. If you print something, pick it up.
Yeah.
Other people don't want to encounter this thing.
No, other people don't need like all the vacuum cleaners that you're interested in.
No.
That you're printing off for reference material for some reason.
That's right. Or everyone don't need like 3 headshots that you're choosing between for something dumb. Look,
right.
Mark and I aren't actors, but every now and then
you need a headshot. It's LA, people.
Yeah, you just need it for like to get a coffee, right? You try to get a coffee and you're like, here's my headshot.
Yeah.
And they're like, it'll be $3. Yeah, it's I wish there was an easy solution for printing.
Mm-hmm.
But like I don't know. I don't think anyone would be happy with like a printer that's like pretty good or like a black and white printer. Like you need to have a printer that can do amazing printing.
Right.
Right?
But you need that like once every 2 years.
Yes.
And so even if you have that amazing printer, I mean, imagine you're living in a fantasy world.
Sure.
Where you own that amazing printer.
Mm-hmm. And if anyone does have an amazing printer that they would like to recommend to us, please, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com.
Or just like send it to us.
Yeah, just send the printer to us. Just write Nintendo Cartridge Society, put some stamps on the box. It'll
get found. It'll get found. But then every 2 years when you go to print, you run out of ink.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you have to go get ink cartridges.
Okay, so here's the future though. Inkless printers.
I'm listening.
I don't know how it works.
Well, if you did, you'd be a millionaire.
I would, in fact. We recently got a printer at work that is a cartridgeless printer, where it just has like little vats of ink that like you fill up with like a little ink pouch.
Okay.
And it prints nicely.
Wait, how is this different from ink? Isn't this just ink cartridges by another name?
Yeah, probably. But they're like tanks. It has like tanks of ink. So I guess you're not replacing the cartridge. You're just replacing.
You're just
refilling
the ink.
Right.
Yes.
But I don't know. It's slow and not reliable and doesn't have double-decker scanning, which is, I mean, like, come on, I'm gonna need to print more than one sheet of thing at a time.
I mean, I guess we'll never know for sure.
We will, in fact, never know for sure.
Was that filmed in a train station? Is that what all that steam being released was?
No, so we were accompanied today by beatboxer Yala Massive, and this is a whole like performance where this beatboxer like comes out on stage, and there are like strobe lights and a smoke machine.
Oh,
and stuff.
that was a fog machine.
That's exactly what that
was.
was.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was like a full blown like real performance of 433. It's just a little noisy. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
All right, so this first piece of news hits a little close to my heart. Atari wants to bring Roller Coaster Tycoon to the Switch. Roller Coaster Tycoon is a franchise that I love. As a kid, I poured probably like hundreds of hours into Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 and Roller Coaster Tycoon 2.
Yeah.
Last week, the company started an investment campaign on the crowdfunding platform Start Engine. This differs from other crowdsourcing sites in that backers are actually making an investment in the game, and so they ostensibly receive some sort of payout if certain revenue goals are met.
Sure.
So Roller Coaster Tycoon on Switch would be awesome. The problem is that Atari hasn't made like a good new Roller Coaster Tycoon game for a long time.
Isn't there's a mobile one, right?
There's a mobile one, which I'm guessing this one would be based off of. And so the mobile one, it has a lot of like is microtransaction based. They released one for the PC called Roller Coaster Tycoon World a couple of years ago that was not very well received. It was really buggy. Here's the thing though, like 2 years ago on iOS and Android devices, Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic came out, and it was a port, like an updated port of Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 and Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. And it was the whole thing for I think like $10 or $15, and it's awesome.
Right, that's exactly what you want.
It's exactly what I want, and so like all you have to do is throw that on Switch, and I'm happy.
Right, but evidently Atari needs funding for it.
Right. Well, I mean, and Atari is a company that is just a name at this point.
Yeah. Fair enough.
You know, so I'm guessing that it's just like a venture capitalist firm.
Right.
That has the name Atari
and the rights
like
to Roller Coaster Tycoon.
And is looking to like leverage these IP. So it's a little disappointing. I mean, I guess it would be cool to have Roller Coaster Tycoon on Switch. Really, what I want is just that classic version, because you could have the touchscreen controls that the iPad version has, and figure out a way to use like Joy-Con as a mouse.
Yeah, and get that HD rumble in there.
Get that HD rumble in there when you don't complete a roller coaster, but let it go. But let the train go through anyway, so it like crashes off the tracks into a group of people. Let me feel that in HD.
I want to feel that human agony of people screaming as they careen off a jump.
It's what HD rumble was made for.
Yeah, to communicate your horrible roller coaster failings.
But seriously though, if Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic came to Switch, I would pay like $20 for that. It's easy money.
It's an easy $20 if nothing else.
Nintendo has announced the end of Miitomo. I guess this is kind of the big news for the week.
Miitomo.
If you're not familiar with Miitomo, it's their social media app that was originally introduced in March of 2016. So service will end officially at midnight Pacific time on May 9th. And once the service ends, the app will completely cease to function. So any clothing, wallpaper, posters, anything that you purchased or created will disappear. And you can transfer your Mii character to your Nintendo account, but their personality and any other information will not carry over.
So the Mii's personalities, so they didn't really use Miitomo very much. You and I think, turned it on a couple times for the purposes of this show.
Yeah.
Right? But like, in what way is your character's personality expressed? Just like through your answering questions, or?
Yeah, I guess so. And maybe there was like a way that you could customize it to make like your Mii timid or your Mii, like energetic or whatever.
Right. But the souls of the Miis are being wiped out.
Exactly. It'll be mere Mii husks.
Yes. Mere Mii husks.
Yeah. displayed grotesquely, like
But
corpses.
just saved on your phone
Well,
forever.
okay. I mean, with any of these virtual games that you're buying virtual items with real money, eventually there's going to be an end of life or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's always a little bit crappy.
Does this seem fast to you?
I mean, Miitomo was never a huge success.
Yeah.
And Nintendo themselves said that like not viewership,
Users,
like engagement,
yeah,
has dropped off significantly. So it's obvious that they're just kind of cutting their losses. I think the thing that to me is a little bit gross is that in the West, anyways, they're not giving any refunds for unspent Miitomo coins, and so they're like, you have a few more months that you can buy virtual items with, so and enjoy, but then it's all just going away.
Yeah, I mean, since it's all just going away. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's a good point. Like,
I feel like they should give like people who want refunds on unused Miitomo coins. I feel like they should give them that money back.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's first of all, why are you buying just like a bunch of Miitomo coins that you're not like immediately spending? Right? Like, who's just like banking a bunch of like, oh, I'll spend $100 worth of Miitomo coins eventually. Who's doing that?
I don't know.
Stop doing that.
I'm sure. Well, I'm sure somebody is, right?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
I have no pity for this person.
That part of it just feels a little gross to me. But yeah, we downloaded Miitomo. I fired it up. I thought it founded very like user unfriendly.
Yeah. Yeah, and like if there is a like fun experience buried in there somewhere, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting but failed experiment in Nintendo's kind of rocky mobile outings.
I mean, really, less than 2 years is how long this thing will have been active.
A little over 2 years.
Well, from
March 2016
to May. Okay. Yeah, so just a little over 2 years. I mean, like that is short. That is not a lot of time to support something.
No, not at all. And not just to like sunset it, but to completely be like cut it off entirely. When you open the app, you're just going to get a message saying that it's not supported.
Saying this is not an app anymore.
Yeah.
Do you think any of it has to do with putting the Miis to bed? Being like Miis aren't a thing anymore.
Right.
We know that you can still make them on the Switch. We don't care about it anymore. There are no more Wii line of games. And like there's no more Mii Plaza in on the 3DS. Like all of these things are gone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's like a conscious effort to do away with the Miis, but I think it definitely is like the killing blow.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I guess you can still make Miis on Switch, and they show up in Mario Kart Deluxe 8. But other than that, I can't think of any other application that they currently have.
Yeah. Man, it's so, we were playing Wii Music last week, and like it was sort of fun to see all those Miis again. But I think that's sort of something that like I need to be away from and then see again and be like, oh, I remember these are all my friends from college.
I mean, it's just the Miis are an artifact of their time.
Yeah.
I mean, does Xbox still have
those
avatar things?
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It feels like something from 10 years ago.
And it is.
With the Seiken Densetsu collection that was released on Switch and the upcoming Secret of Mana remake for PS4 and Xbox One, Square Enix has recently started doing more with the Mana series. It also showed up on Secret of Mana showed up on the SNES Classic Edition.
Yep.
And
recently the first one, which was like Final Fantasy Legends, was ported over to or like re-released on Vita.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I mean, that was maybe a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or something.
Yeah. According to current series producer Masahiro Oyamada, the ultimate goal is to make a new entry in the series.
What?
Yeah. So he said, quote, personally, after I took up the role as the producer of the Mana series, it has been our goal to create a new title in the Mana series. With that said, there has been this period of time that an entry in the Mana series hasn't been released. we've decided to remake the Adventures of Mana and Secret of Mana in order for people who have played the titles to get to know it once again, as well as give players who are new to the series an opportunity to experience the game and get everyone up to speed.
So this is just a 3-game series, right?
Right.
Legend of Mana, Secret of Mana, and then the sequel to that we never saw in the West. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That it may see new life.
I think it also fits with what the CEO of Square Enix said recently, just talking about how they want to leverage their IP in new ways and bring some of these mid-tier titles, which is something that Square Enix kind of excels at.
Right. Like obviously with Octopath Traveler forthcoming and like the Bravely games on,
like
on
Bravely,
3DS.
And I could see a world where the Mana series kind of like fits in there as well. So I think we would all assume in our hearts that it would be coming to Switch. And Oyamada had this to say about it: considering the amount of passion people have for the platform, meaning the Switch, it will be hard to remove it as a release option for any future projects.
Yeah, I think especially if they're aiming for that like sort of mid-range. Obviously Lost Sphere just came out last week on all platforms, including Switch. And the I Am Setsuna, like that's the right like price point, I think, for a game like this, and like the right level of presentation for a new Mana game.
I also like that he said, considering the amount of passion people have for the platform, because that is true. I think anytime a developer announces a new game that isn't announced for Switch, they're inundated with people being like, why isn't this on Switch? Is this going to come to Switch?
Yeah, looks great. Bring it to Switch.
Yeah, we love every and that's what I think is an interesting thing about the Switch hardware in general, is that the selling point of the system in a lot of ways is the system itself.
Yeah.
People just love the hardware.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can take it in bed with you. You can play it on a plane, Mark.
Speaking of bringing games to Switch, Epic Games Worldwide Creative Director Donald Mustard answered a question on Twitter that seems like he might be hinting at Fortnite coming to Switch. When asked by a Fortnite fan whether Mustard was interested in bringing the game to the Nintendo platform, Mustard replied, quote, yes, I am. Hopefully we do that at some point, ! End quote.
Hopefully we do that at some point.
Yeah.
Dude, you're the worldwide creative director. Worldwide, Mark. Worldwide.
If anybody has influence, it's Donald Mustard when he's not busy
murdering Mrs. White.
Yes.
So Fortnite, for people who aren't clued into non-Nintendo gaming news, is a game that has stolen part of its like gameplay mechanics from PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which is a hugely popular like battle royale game where 100 players are dropped onto a map and they have to just like fight each other to the death in a shrinking arena. And so Fortnite has borrowed or stolen or emulated that mechanic, and is finding a lot of success. It's available on PC and consoles, and just not on Switch yet. And if it were to come to Switch, it means it would likely beat something like PlayerUnknown's Battleground to Switch, which would be a big deal. Those are big selling and big huge player bases.
Yeah. Also, this kind of segues into a rumor that I've been reading online.
Ooh.
Or just kind of like the
rumor time!
Yeah, the buzz right now kind of is that Nintendo's 2018 is supposedly going to be very like port focused from Nintendo, like first party.
Okay.
So, we're seeing Bayonetta 1 and 2. We're seeing Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze.
Right.
I think, or Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. And so kind of like the word right now is that there will of course be new games like Kirby and Yoshi and, probably something bigger for the holidays. But that 2018 is kind of a regrouping year for Nintendo first parties, and that they're going to be counting on these ports and on third-party companies picking up the slack. So that seems to me that they are expecting or know of bigger third-party games that are going to be coming to Switch sometime this year.
Yeah, well, and it's a this is a brand new genre, right? Of games. Like PlayerUnknown started to like appear like early last year, right? Early 2017, I think, is when I started to hear about it.
Yeah.
And has now like everywhere where either PlayerUnknown or Fortnite. I guess GTA 5 also has a mode similar to that, but wherever those platforms aren't, there's a huge black hole for that style of game. And I mean, for the most part now, on like all the current generation hardware, it's just the Switch and the old 3DS that don't have games like that. So, and obviously, if what you're saying about Nintendo, I mean, they're not quick to follow those kinds of trends anyway. So like, we're not going to see like a Splatoon battle royale anytime soon. But like, yeah, there's a market for it.
Yeah,
certainly on Switch.
Definitely, it'll be interesting to see what company gets there first.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then finally, a new line of PlayStation licensed amiibo-esque figures are in production from ThinkGeek. The line is called Totaku. Is that right?
You would think it would be Toitaku, if anything, but no, it's Totaku.
Yeah. And the first wave of figures are releasing on March 23rd. I guess like the big difference between this and Amiibo is that there's no in-game functionality for any of the figures.
Right, no near-field readers.
But they resemble Nintendo's Amiibos in size. They're not posable, and they all have like uniform bases.
Yeah, it's the PlayStation like the plus the D-pad shape.
The first wave includes Kratos from God of War. Who is this from Tekken?
Heihachi
from Tekken. Hunter from Bloodborne. A car from Wipeout. The car from Wipeout. Sackboy from Little Big Planet, and Parappa the Rapper, and Crash Bandicoot. You know what we say. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's an amiibo.
Probably an amiibo. Yeah, I mean, and then there are more of these forthcoming.
Yes, Bated Breath.
Bated Breath. They're retailing for cheaper than amiibo.
I saw that. Yeah,
$9.99. And they're supposed to be like 4 inches tall. They look okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they look fine.
Yeah. It's hard to get excited about them, though.
It's hard to get excited about them. Partly, I mean, it's the same reason that it was hard to get excited for PlayStation All-Stars or whatever it was called.
Sure, that you just aren't in love with these things the same way that we are with Mario.
Yeah, it's like, do I really need an adorable figure of Kratos from God of War?
And how adorable could that figure even be?
Not very. Like, I guess like Sackboy from Little Big Planet is pretty cute.
Yeah, and I mean, I like Parappa the Rapper, but I'm also like, when's the last time I enjoyed playing a Parappa the Rapper game?
I mean, the car from Wipeout?
Yeah. And Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I guess it's just hard to get excited about these. It's a little bit weird to me that Heihachi is in here. Is Tekken a PlayStation brand?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, it's owned by Bandai Namco, right?
Right.
They make Tekken. All right. Mark, I just don't know. Would there be, is there a Totaku that would be like, is there a PlayStation brand toy that like you could get excited about or that you would want that they just didn't make for this toy series? Let's blue sky it.
I'm trying to think. I mean, a Ratchet and Clank seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, that would be a good pull.
I
mean, I like the Uncharted games and The Last of Us, but like, I don't really want a little Nathan Drake or like a little Joel and Ellie.
Well, I mean, there's also something weird about him being human.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, yeah, there are human-esque amiibos.
Yeah, but like, Mario's like dragging a fireball across his chest, or like the Fire Emblem dudes all have like swords and capes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something very strange about like, and here's a normal guy with a gun.
Yeah, there's just something less fun about it.
Yeah. Fat Princess. I would enjoy
that would be
Princess
perfect.
Totaku. Get on that, ThinkGeek. Fat Princess. except no substitutes. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. All right, and that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, if you could please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff on Apple Podcasts, that helps us out immeasurably. People can find the show, and then other people can talk about it, and then everyone can borrow my copy of Sonic Forces.
Thank you, as always, to everybody who has already rated us. We really appreciate it.
And then if you're, in the engaging with Nintendo Cartridge Society mood and you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at NinCart Society on Twitter, and our Facebook page is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. So check us out in those places. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can find more of 8-Bit Betty's music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?